Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. This is Wes Dillingham. That's my name. I'm with For Group. I am the Vice President of Success here at For Group and with the Lead Tool. We are a CRM product, which stands for Customer Relationship Management, and it is basically a lead management or sales management tool that helps salespeople lead their prospects and manage their prospects through the sales cycle. There's also back-end reporting on our product that allows managers, owners to be able to see some key business metrics and be able to monitor their salespeople as well. So if you have any questions about that, please let me know at the end of the presentation. But today we're going to be talking about getting your people to use the software that you buy. Always a tough task and typically causes some levels of reaction, some levels of stress from users, from your employees. So I'm going to give you some tips, some things to think about in successfully implementing a software program that you purchase for your company. So let's just kind of take a look at the agenda for today. This isn't going to be a long webinar. It'll be relatively quick, but I want to cover a couple key things. So first, we'll establish what we're talking about here, because I think there's a little bit of difference between what people think they're doing when they buy software and what they're really doing. We'll talk about having a dedicated implementation specialist, a strategy and a plan, and focusing on education, not training. And then we'll end with a quote that I've included just to kind of bring it all home. If you do have any questions or anything comes up along the way, please write those in. Everybody in the webinar has been muted, so all questions should come in via the chat line, and I will check that at the end, and we'll cover any questions that come up. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about software, but whenever you implement software, you're no longer talking about just a tool, just something you're adding to your business. The biggest and one of the number one misunderstandings that people have when they buy and implement software in their business is they're not implementing software, they're implementing change. So when you are wanting to bring something into the work environment, which is going to change the way your employees work on a daily basis, you're no longer introducing them to just a thing, a software, a new tool, a new resource. You're actually introducing them to change, which we all know creates stress, creates fear, puts us out of our comfort zone. And add that in the mix of a professional environment, and you're talking about one of the most stressful things that people, employees, can participate in. Number one, you're talking about technology, which is stressful. Number two, you're talking about your work environment, which is already stressful. Whether you think your employees think they're calm, cool, and collected, you're impacting their daily routine, and potentially their money. So it's going to create stress. There's going to be stress added. So all of these things, again, are going to cause stress and equal resistance. Fuel for resistance, or added fuel for resistance, is the fact that at most work environments, people have created a routine. Depending on how long they've been there, the longer they've been there, the more that routine is ingrained in their daily comfort zone. So what you're doing is you're asking them to change their routine. And we all know a routine that works well is a groove. A routine that doesn't work well is a rut. Regardless, software is going to screw up that routine. It's asking them to change what they're doing on a daily basis, and it's going to create stress. So we're no longer managing a technology product. We're no longer implementing a technology product. It's no longer about software or a tool or a resource. It's about your people. And it's about helping them manage the stress levels that they're feeling and overcoming the friction on an individual basis. Each person is going to have different friction points. Each person is going to have different stress levels. So a key is managing all that. So now that we know what we're talking about people, we're talking about psychology, we're talking about change. Let's get into how we do that. So my keys that I always like to have in place when doing an implementation, a software implementation, is the person on the other end that's managing this implementation for the company that bought our software. That person is huge. That person makes or breaks the success of this implementation. The dedicated implementation specialist that you choose to implement your software is going to be one of the biggest things you do in deciding on this software. A couple key things about that person. They don't have to be tech savvy. It helps. Don't get me wrong, it helps. But don't go to the biggest nerd in your company and ask them to implement the software program. Because more important than nerdiness, than tech savvy, than loving technology, loving software, that kind of thing, more important to that than that is you want somebody that has a positive attitude. So let's take a look here at some of the keys to your dedicated implementation specialist. So again, the most important thing is that they're positive and excited about doing it. They need to be knowledgeable. So you're gonna want to train them, or your company that you bought the software for is gonna want to spend some time with them. They need to be knowledgeable about the product, obviously. They need to be knowledgeable about what it's solving, the solution that it's creating. They need to be knowledgeable about how it's going to benefit each individual user as well as benefit the business overall. And they need to know the ins and outs of the product. I see this as a big mistake. Oftentimes, the point of contact or the implementation specialist is the owner of the company or the general manager of the store, and that person doesn't learn the software. They just hand it over to the people that they need to use it, and they have no detailed understanding. They have no ability to answer questions. They really don't know anything about the software other than they want their people to use it. That's one of the number one things you can do wrong to make this implementation go poorly. If you don't know it, your employees don't see any reason to know it. If you can't speak to it, they're not going to respect the fact that you expect them to speak to it. So just a couple key things there. Again, knowledgeable is important. Influential and can drive change. So you need somebody that people like. You need somebody that people aren't going to blow off. You need somebody that people are going to listen to and respect. Somebody that's not controversial in the company, or somebody that people just won't listen to or don't respect. That's not going to help drive change in this particular case. So those are some of the keys to having a dedicated implementation specialist. Next, we need a strategy and a plan. So here's the key for a strategy and a plan. You can get as in-depth into your strategy and plan as you want to, and I encourage you to. But at the bare minimum, you need to answer some of these key questions. Who, what, why, when, and how do we know if this is a success or not? And that's one of the number one things that most software implementations are missing. Many times, a company knows they need the software. They know it's going to solve the problem. They know they have a problem, but they don't have key metrics around the problem. They don't have any standard to compare things before the software was implemented and after the software was implemented. You need some objective way to determine if the software has solved and resolved what you're implementing it for. And having a very detailed plan is huge for that. So here's a couple key things about your plan. Number one, the more research, the more planning you do prior to buying the software, the better you are. That way your plan is really already in place. You've purchased the software with a well thought out plan. Now you want to implement the software with a well thought out tweaked plan based on what product you ended up getting, based on maybe some of the things you learned throughout the research process. You also want to be very careful about your timeline. One of the biggest things that I see impacting a implementation is the timing. People, owners, managers, executives want things implemented ASAP, and their time frame is often a major cause of derailing the implementation. Again, remember, this isn't about the software. This isn't about a deadline. This isn't about somebody else's agenda. This is about your people adopting the software and learning it and using it so the business can benefit. If there is an ego that has some sort of personal agenda, if there is a timeline that is absolutely the focus, or if the software is being championed by somebody who has the software at their utmost priority and not the people, those things are all going to impact this implementation negatively. So don't let your timeline throw you off, but definitely have one that is adjustable, one that you can that has some flex in it. Being organized and following through is the best way to earn respect from your team. So having a plan shows that you're organized. Implementing a timeline and a plan in conjunction with your people, as well as a team of people that should be sort of assisting the implementation specialist, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But showing that organization, having that plan, and then executing it, just like you explained to your people, will earn you some respect, and people will follow that and follow that to using the product. Communication, over communicate, don't assume, let people know what you're doing, when you're doing it, what they can expect, how this is going to impact them. And then finally, the number one thing you can do in this phase is allow a team of people to assist you and your implementation specialist in the implementation. And that group of people has to have somebody who can answer to the top or answer at the top, somebody that has complete and total decision-making power and influence on the entire department or company that's implementing the software. You need your implementation specialist. You need a representative from each department who is being impacted. And those people need to be going back and forth and listening to what their constituents, what their colleagues are saying, and what you're communicating to everybody. And that way, you're learning and understanding better what fears are out there, what obstacles are going to be in the way, and then you can begin to understand your plan and adapt your plan accordingly. Finally, let's talk about what most people call training. I like to call education. I still call it training too, but I think education describes in a better way what is so important about implementing software, because most people think of software as, I'll go through a training course, I'll learn the software, I'll move on. And software doesn't work that way. Software is different for every person. Everybody learns software differently. Some people love to problem solve. They love to dive in, click on every single thing, figure out what every single thing in the program does. Some people like to read help articles. Some people like to watch videos. Some people like live training where they can ask questions and they can get feedback on the things that they're thinking about. Everybody learns differently, and you need to accommodate everything and everybody. And it's not difficult to do typically. Typically, most of the implementations that I run into, the owner or the executive, they have their point of contact or their implementation specialist do some sort of training, and then everybody's off to the races. I highly recommend that if you buy software, that software company provides you with some level of implementation support, some level of strategizing, some level of post-implementation education and support. Whether you have to pay for it or not, that is huge to helping you move this forward and keep it moving in the right direction at the right time frame. And it also, if you're buying software from a company that's established like that and has some of those resources, you're already creating an environment of learning and an environment where people feel comfortable, they're supported, they have multiple resources to learn and understand. And the bottom line here is just creating a situation where your folks are comfortable in asking questions, looking dumb, learning in an adequate time frame, and giving them, blocking off time for them to spend on the product and the software, as well as understanding contextually how it fits into their day-to-day job. So that's on education and training. So those are the three keys to implementing a software product that will help you avoid some of the major pitfalls. In fact, I'm pretty confident that if you have the right person implementing the software, as well as, this is a key, but the software companies there helping you, but if you have the right person, that dedicated implementation specialist, the right strategy, or just any kind of strategy, any kind of plan, you've thought through some of the things you're going to run into, you look organized, you're asking your employees what they need, what they want, and you're providing that for them. And part of asking your employees is just to listen to what they say. You don't have to do everything they want, but listening and letting them know, hey, that's a great idea. We're not going to be able to do it this time because of X, Y, and Z. But just treat them the way you would like to be treated. And then finally, creating an environment of learning and understanding where people can ask questions and have adequate time to implement the software into their daily routine. Finally, I just want to throw out this quote. Mark Sanborn is a motivational speaker. Not necessarily interested in him as much as I like the content of this quote. Your success in life isn't based on your ability to simply change. It's based on your ability to change faster than your competition, customers, and business. So I brought that up just because I think adopting software, number one, it fits into that. You're wanting to stay ahead of your competition. You're wanting to stay modern and up to date on the technology and resources that are available in your business, in your industry. So implementing software is a key part of that. And implementing software, again, it will help keep you in business, but it's about change. It's about people. It's not about a product. And finally, we'll just kind of conclude today's webinar with some Q&A. I'll double check and see if we have any questions right now. And to do that, I need to escape and come over here. Oh yeah, Brad, appreciate it. Any feedback, any thoughts, any questions, Brad? Or anyone else that's on the line here? Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time, Brad, and I'm going to go ahead and conclude. If you do have any questions or need anything, I'll just type in my my email here. I should have done this before. Feel free to reach out to me with questions or anything I can do to help. If you're in the middle of implementing a software platform and you need some help, have some questions, let me know. If you're interested in the lead tool, please feel free to let me know. Otherwise, thanks everybody and have a great day.